Joining me today is Dr. Matt Niewald, a local dentist from Lakewood Dental Center. Welcome, Matt.
How's it going today?
It's good. All right, so we talked. You wanted to come on the show, and all I could think of was Steve Martin singing, "I Want to Be a Dentist." And so I'm going to ask you this question. Why? Why would anybody ever want to be a dentist?
Well, you know, it's interesting. I actually had to revisit that video last night after our conversation, and it's definitely not an accurate portrayal of the profession in its current state.
Wait. You mean that wasn't real?
You know, maybe 40 or 50 years ago. So I come from a long line of dentists. I'm actually a fourth-generation dentist, dating all the way back to the 1920s. My great-grandfather actually graduated from what was Midwestern Dental College, it's now UMKC. So it's kind of in the family genes, I suppose. So always had an interest in it, and it's certainly been a very rewarding profession for me and something I enjoy doing on a daily basis.
So there is, it's a passion thing, not just Dad did it and Grandpa did it, and so I better too.
No, it's, you know, I literally get to help people and improve their lives on a daily basis, and you know, it has a great rewarding effect.
Well, I'm going to ask you because I ask the dumb questions. That's my role on this show. Thing. Passion for digging around in somebody's mouth seems a little odd to me.
You know, it's when you're around it from literally the day of, you know, when you're young, you just kind of see it. It's something you become accustomed to. So, you know, there are some things that, you know, that, I don't know, we may want to restart that. That's fine. I'm trying not to get like too graphic or anything. So.
No. Well, we just finished the month of February, which was National Children's Dental Health Month. That's a big deal for you. Kids and dental health, that's something you focus on a lot. So I'm just a little curious. How early do we need to start? Not really caring, that's too extreme, but you know, how early do you start really focusing on kids and how they take care of their mouth?
You know, I've had the luxury throughout my career to treat children of all ages, and it's very rewarding. But one of the big things, because I've been doing this for over 18 years now, is, you know, watching these kids grow up and now watch them become young adults and seeing the evolution of their oral health care through the years. And, you know, one of the big components as far as when children should come in is, you know, really at a very young age. And the American Dental Association and the American Association of Pediatric Dentists recommends that all children should have their first dental visit before the age of 1.
Really?
Yeah, because it's, you know, you start developing habits early. It's critical, especially in kids. The sooner you start doing that and have them accustomed to coming into a dental office or that type of setting, you know, the more prone they're going to be to being comfortable in that setting.
So is that more about habit than it is maybe about the actual treatments and preventive care?
It is. You know, it gives us two opportunities. One, we get to interact with that child in the dental setting, and two, it gives us the opportunity to educate parents, because there's a lot of misinformation out there about, you know, oral health and kids and how that you know, and how it affects their overall health for their entire life. So to engage on both those levels, both with parents and children at early onset, really minimizes the negative effects of receiving oral health care down the road.
Well, while we're on that subject then, and so my next question, this is probably, you can answer this for adults and kids, but how often should we be seeing you? I know we all get the reminders every year, go see your dentist, but is annual enough? Should we go see you and your ilk more often than that?
You know, one of the things that we try to promote, and while we're raising awareness during Children's Dental Oral Health Month, is something we call the Rule 2. So that's visiting the dentist twice a year, brushing your teeth twice a day for 2 minutes. So,
all right, I'm gonna stop you there, because I've had this question a lot. So when I was growing up, it was 3 times a day brush your teeth, and now we say 2. Do we have stronger teeth? Is this evolution now?
Well, me personally, I always recommend anytime you consume a meal or anything, you should brush your teeth. So 3 times a day is certainly a good recommendation. That's just the minimal recommendation that the American Dental Association provides for both youth and adults.
Let's ask some other kind of real things, because while we're on the subject of brushing rules, you said twice a day, 2 minutes at a time. There's a lot of advertising out there about toothbrushes, and you guys give us a new toothbrush every time. So I have 2 questions on toothbrushes. One, are there really bad toothbrushes out there, the ones to avoid? And how often do I need to make my kid change his?
That actually is a very good question. It really, for the most part in the marketplace now, most toothbrushes have the ADA seal of approval, so they're effective and they're safe. We've gotten away from hard bristled toothbrushes and more to soft bristled toothbrushes. That has evolved. I certainly recommend, electronic toothbrushes. Certainly they're a little pricier, but the efficacy as far as, providing the oral hygiene.
I like them, but I just like toys too. So I always wondered if that was a real thing, if I was getting a better toothbrush by going electric.
Well, it is really, because you're taking the manual dexterity piece out of it, especially for children. Even my own children, I have them absolutely use a rotary spin brush, because children they don't have the dexterity that we do. But again, I recommend electronic toothbrushes for adults as well. So.
All right. Well, how often should we be changing those brushes? Because I guarantee you, somebody's listen to this, and they're going to go into their bathroom and be like, man, I've been using that same brush for a long time.
And I can certainly say, we provide toothbrushes at every cleaning appointment. If that's twice a year, it's definitely less than 6 months. So a typical toothbrush is every 3 months. Some of them are 30 days. Most of them come with the manufacturer's recommendation. So especially the spin brushes, and actually most of them have indicators on them now. So they kind of take the thinking part out of it.
I can tell you that probably nobody has read the back of their toothbrush box to see what those recommendations
honestly,
are.
As an oral health care provider, I have not either.
All right, here's my other one. I'm going to ask this one because this is what my kid tells me all the time, and he hates it when I say, because I said so. How big a deal is flossing?
It actually is a big deal. I know there's been some recent studies that contradict that, but from a long-term standpoint, it gets into places the traditional toothbrush can't, and it's removing that bad bacteria, cavity-causing bacteria. So it definitely has an importance. So there's definitely new technologies out there that are more effective, but there isn't anything for a true replacement for flossing.
Well, do you have any other tips or things that you should tell us that we should know as we all try to force our kids to brush their teeth and to take care of their mouth? Because really none of them want to do it. Or your kids are probably perfect at it.
No, far from perfect. My kids have had their fair share of cavities too. So, I think one of the things is we're raising kids. It's just one more added layer to your busy, crazy schedule today. But one of the things we try to tell parents, show, tell, do. Or tell, show, do. Show them, how you brush, and do it with them at night. I mean, it's kind of one of those things. Kids do have a tendency to follow in their parents' footsteps, and it's no different with oral health care as well. Parents that raise children where they go twice a year, those children, when they grow up to be adults, are much more likely to visit the dentist on a regular basis and have good oral home care and a lot fewer dental problems long term.
What are maybe some common things that you see? Are there? I mean, is there one or two big problems that we need to focus on, that we need to know about?
I think one of the biggest messages we have to get out there is, getting these kids in at an early age. The longer you wait, the more problems that are more than likely going to develop, and the harder they are to treat because they haven't been in that setting from day one. So getting them in that setting early on, teaching them good oral hygiene habits, and familiarizing them with the dental office setting makes it much easier for them to, if and when they need to receive care, to get that care long term. So, I mean, as of now, I don't know what the current statistics are, but 1 in 5 kids right now has active decay going on in their mouth. So that's 20% of our society that has an active cavity that could or may be causing pain.
Okay, well, here's where you get to nerd out a little bit. Tell us exactly really what is a cavity, what is active decay. I mean, I think, most of us, we all know there's a hole in a tooth somewhere, but I guess kind of maybe paint us a better picture on what that really is and what to watch for.
Basically a cavity is, we have this outer shell and it's called enamel, and that's the protective layer of the tooth. Teeth have feeling, so once... they do.
Teeth have feelings.
They unfortunately.
I was waiting for you to break into song.
Not going to happen. But once that outer layer is violated, and it's usually the cause of it is obviously bacteria in the mouth and sugary diets. Then the tooth literally starts decaying, and at some point there'll be some pain associated with that. And so once that happens, you've got to remove those areas and fix those areas.
So really, if you're a parent, or even I guess for yourself, watch for the pain. I mean, is that the indicator that you?
No, it really isn't. I mean, but we need to be cognizant of our kids if they do complain of dental pain, not to put it off. That's the big premise behind visiting twice a year. Is we want to, if there's something going on, we want to see it and fix it before it becomes painful. Because I can tell you, rest assured, I take emergency calls all the time, and there is nothing worse in this world, and I think a lot of my adult patients who have been through it could testify, than tooth pain. It's one of the most acute pains you can endure. So, and certainly to put a child through that's something we want to avoid.
Well, you mentioned while you were talking about cavities, you mentioned about a lot of the candies and things. So I'm gonna ask you this. I say it to my kid, but really only because my mother said it to me. Are the hard candies, are they really that bad?
They are, believe it or not. And we live in a society now where we have fluoride in the water, which actually has definitely improved overall oral health care. But we also live in a time where kids are consuming all kinds of refined carbohydrates and high fructose corn syrups, and candies. And, one of the worst are the sour candies. And
oh man, I love those.
Yeah, I know. We all do, don't we? But, in small amounts. But, what ultimately breaks down the enamel layer of the tooth is acids in the mouth. And those sour candies it's generally citric acid. Carbonated beverages, that's carbonic acid. So those are the things that break down, and if you consistently consume those, it makes you much more at risk to developing cavities.
This question is really more for a different podcast that I host called the Varsity Kansas City Podcast. We focus on high school athletics and stuff. I'm curious about mouth guards, and a lot of the athletes are wearing them today, but you got to wonder, is it really that necessary, or is it just kind of the fashion trend?
As kids are becoming more active and they're playing more and more contact sports, it's becoming actually a very big issue. And in fact, so much in some states that any type of athletic sport that they require mouth guards in anything that has contact.
So that was really just me being an old man asking that kind of question. Why are they different?
Not at all. So, I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, you're putting yourself out there in those types of situations, and a guard can do wonders. There's going to be, mishaps and contacts. So we definitely promote in our office youth that are involved in those type of sports, even when it's not mandated. Obviously, football, you're mandated to wear a guard. Basketball, soccer, we really advise those youth to get a custom-made mouth guard that they can wear, and it's amazing what we can do. I mean, we can match your team uniforms now. We can put your logo on it. We can do all kinds of neat things regarding those.
So is it really important though to get a custom-made one and not just go buy off the shelf?
You can buy the off-the-shelf ones, or anymore, you can make them custom made the way they're designed, but there's never going to be a true substitute for an actual custom made one, because it is a accurate depiction of what your teeth are. So,
well, I'm gonna say that now because right now spring sports for high schools are getting ready to gear up. I think practices just started this week for spring sports. So. If you're an athlete, or your kid is a spring athlete, it's probably a good idea, if you haven't already, to call your dentist office and to inquire about getting that mouth guard.
Absolutely. I mean, they're not that expensive, much more than an over the counter. We can get them custom made for a relatively inexpensive amount, and like I said, we can do all sorts of different things with them. So we can match your jersey. Like I said, we can put your uniform number on them. We can do whatever. So, well,
this is going to lead me now. I want to have a fun question. Do you have a favorite sports injury that you've seen to the mouth?
I never like to see a sports injury at all, but it happens, and it happens routinely. And parents and children alike, don't think it won't happen to me, and until it does, and often involves what we call avulsing a tooth, or losing a permanent tooth. Which with technology now we can put those teeth back in, and it's amazing what we can recover from.
You can put the real teeth back in. It's not like the old hockey days of.
Well, in the old days, I think those guys just lost a tooth and went about their business. But obviously, we're much more self-conscious society now. So, anytime you lose a front tooth, you're not going to want to be walking around. It's obviously going to be your first priority. But yeah, you can actually, I've actually had it happen on numerous occasions, where a child lost a permanent front tooth, and, we found it, we put it back in, and those kids are fine. They still have a functioning vital tooth. So
that's really cool to me. Like, I had no idea that you'd actually take an adult tooth and put it back in, and everything works fine.
You can, on most occasions, you can do that, believe it or not.
So if you lose an adult tooth, find it
and
first, then call your dentist.
Yeah, and immediately, if you're able to put it back in yourself. If not, obviously call the dentist. If you can't put it back in, put it in a cold cup of milk, and just like I said.
Wait. Cold cup of milk?
Yep.
All right, you got to explain that one.
Well, I don't really have a good explanation of why that's a good thing, but it preserves a tooth until we can get to it and replace that tooth or put the tooth back in.
Wow. I figured I'd learn something, but that's a new one. I like that.
I actually, I had
new tip of the day.
I had this happen just a couple years ago. One of my neighbor's kids had a pool accident, knocked his front tooth out, and ended up in the bottom of the pool, and permanent tooth, and it was like 60 degrees outside, so I sent my kid diving for it. We found it, we put it in a cup of milk, and we were able to put it back in there on the spot. So and it's a great kid. He's to this day still has his front tooth.
That's a great. That is a great story. Well, I mean, it's obvious that you have a lot of passion for what you do. This show is also about kind of our community, and you and I actually know each other a little bit from outside of your work, from community stuff, and I know you're involved. Can you tell us a little bit about what you're involved with in Lee Summit?
Over the years, I've been involved in several things. Past chamber board member. For several years, I actually worked with the local school district and providing screenings to elementary age students and identifying needs that were unmet. We also partner with the school district. We get when you got a school district of 17,000 kids, there are obviously kids that fall through the crack and aren't getting essential oral health care. And so if a kid has a toothache and may or may not have insurance or have mom or dad may not be able to get them to the dentist, we partner with the school district, and the school district will actually transport them to our office, and we provide the necessary care that child needs.
Is that a fairly common thing, or is that that districts and local dentists do, or is that kind of something you guys kind of came up with in a conversation somewhere?
I think in a lot of communities there's a lot of partnerships between oral health care providers, and I think we've maybe taken it to another level here in Lee Summit. It's not that common that we have those type of situations, but it's comforting knowing that when we do have those situations, we have that child covered.
You said you're fourth generation
dentist,
which is that's kind of cool. I think if you look at a family to have some kind of legacy, that's
we call it a genetic defect.
Do you all have the same, like maybe one tooth that's a little weird or a hook or something?
I've never even looked in my relatives' mouths, so.
Well, so as we talk more and we get on, I got to know. So when you're not causing pain, when you're not out digging in people's mouths, what is it that you love doing?
I've got 3 kids, amazing kids, and I love raising them and coaching them. They're very active in sports, and that keeps me busy for the most part. But being active in the community, and as we talked about, I've been involved with Downtown Lee Summit and in the chamber, and I've been here for 13 years now in this community, and I couldn't imagine living anywhere else. Just the involvement and the engagement that the citizens have with this community is truly amazing. So that's one of my true passions, is just being involved on as many levels as I can with the community.
Well, I'll tell you, the city right now is going through its strategic planning process, and so I went to their first community conversation thing yesterday, and I will tell you, in almost every group that I was a part of, that very thing came up about how easy it is to be involved, and that when things need to happen, people seem to come together and make it happen.
They do. I mean, it's amazing, and that's our partnership with the school district. It's basically with the school nurses. I mean, that in of itself is there are a lot of school districts that don't necessarily have that, and so that's just another benefit that we provide to the children in this community.
Well, we call this segment "I Am Lee Summit," so you're telling everyone why you're in Lee Summit and who you are and your Lee Summit story. So as we wrap things up, I got a few questions for you.
Sure.
Some rapid fire type stuff. No, not really, but it sounds good, right? When you brag about Lee Summit, or you're trying to recruit somebody to come into this town, what are the top 3 bullet points?
I moved here blindly 13 years ago, not really knowing what I was getting into. One of the big things with this community, I always tell people, like, it's a town of 100,000 people, but me growing up in a town of 2,000 people, it has that feel. It really has a community feel. People engage with people in this community. I love that fact.
All right. If I were to reach in my pocket and grab a $100 bill and give it to you to spend, you got to spend it in town. Where are you going?
Do I have to answer that, honestly? Hold on. You got me stopped now.
All right. I'm gonna let you off the hook a little bit, sort of, but I'm going to come back at you this way. Your favorite bite of food in Lee Summit?
Ooh. The shrimp and grits at 3rd Street Social are hard to pass up.
Man. That's a good call. I might have gone Nashville hot wings.
Well, that's a close second right there. So,
all right. Well, you got. Let's say you got what? You got $60 left. You want to take your kids somewhere because you're a nice dad. I'm assuming you're a nice dad. Where are you gonna go get for your kids?
It's funny. I have my kids have strange palates, so they're quite picky eaters. But any chance they can get to go to Pearl Tavern and mow through 24 oysters, that's where they go.
Okay, I'm gonna say that's good parenting. It shows where I fail. My kid would not do that.
If it's green, they won't eat it, but if it's slimy, they're all over it. I don't get it.
All right, your favorite activity around Lee Summit?
Oh, I'm a big bicycle enthusiast. I kind of got out of it for a few years, but the last couple of years I've gotten into it, and it's actually allowed me to meet more people in the community. And so we have actually a pretty good biking group. So I really enjoy. And Lee Summit is definitely, as I've watched it grow, they're accommodating bicyclists, and it's a big issue for me. So that's one of the things I love to do around town. And once the weather starts cooperating,
I hear that. All right, here's the last one. Who's your favorite media person in town?
Favorite? Oh, that's a trick. It's got to be you.
Well, there we go.
I mean, I'm not going to dare say Bedoin.
Well, he's only sort of. Yeah, as you will know, this is all an exercise in me.
Absolutely.
Dr. Matt Niewald, thank you very much for coming with us, and I wish you all the luck in your future business endeavors, and we hope to talk to you again soon.
All right, thank you. It's been a pleasure.